All right, thanks for tuning in. Going to do a little video here about a recent sailing trip we took down to some islands on the east side of Puerto Rico, sometimes marketed as the Spanish Virgin Islands. They are all technically part of Puerto Rico, between the main island of Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. About eight or nine small islands, some inhabited, some not. We had 8 days aboard a 44-foot sailboat. A whole lot of fun, so here we go. The boat this year was a 44-foot Jeanneau monohull sailboat, which we bareboat chartered out of a marina in Fajardo, Puerto Rico. As captain, of course, I had to crawl around in all the nooks and crannies to do a very thorough safety check before we departed. Loaded down with food, water, beer, and rum for 8 days. We pointed south to the island of Vieques and our first destination, Punta Arenas. Along the way, we had a fishing line behind us. Pulled in our first fish of the trip, a barracuda.
Barracuda? Yep. Nice.
Look at them teeth. We set the hook, about 15 foot of water, settled in for a few cold beers and our first sunset on Vieques Island. In the morning, we set sail for the island of Culebra, about 20 miles or so to the northeast of our first anchorage. We were headed for an anchorage, a place called Playa Carlos Rosario, which is supposedly the best snorkeling in all of the Spanish Virgin Islands. Carlos Rosario Beach on the island of Culebra. There's a lot of coral in this whole area, making anchoring pretty much a no-no, but there were several mooring balls, which made it easy. We grabbed one, started to scope it out. A lot of coral you could see right there between the boat and the shoreline right there. Pretty much along that entire shoreline. Great coral for snorkeling. We found these underwater tunnels which we played around with. After we messed around in that tunnel for a while, we just did some snorkeling for a couple hours, and it was pretty good. And then we headed back to the boat for a little fishing. And Buddy's got a shark on the line.
Want any gloves? Don't need no gloves. Okay.
He don't need no snorkeling gloves. Little guy. So it was a barracuda the day before, a shark today, and a few minutes later,
There you go.
another one. Sir, it's not the same shark, but it sure is similar. A little smaller, right?
Yep.
There you go.
There we go.
Bye-bye. All right. And so after a whole lot of snorkeling, a little bit of fishing, we cracked a few beers, watched the sun start to go down, put on some tunes, settle in for the evening. Played some tunes from a band that I'm playing with now in Austin, Texas, called Four Leaf Clover. Check it out. But man cannot live on beer and tunes alone. So as that sun started to fall a little more, we fired up the grill, threw on some burgers, and finished out the late afternoon. In the morning, we headed out around the island of Culebra over to a tiny island called Culebrita, maybe 8 or 10 miles, not very far. There she is, beautiful little place. We hiked up to the top of the hill. You can see our boat there right in the center between those two trees. We hiked up, it was quite nice. There's an old lighthouse built by Spain a couple hundred years ago. Some really nice views from the top of that hill next to that old lighthouse. And we spent some time up there just checking things out. After maybe an hour, hour and a half of hiking around the island, got real hot. We needed to cool off and refresh with some adult beverages, a little bit of swimming. Did that for a bit, and then we took a little walk toward the end of the island. And you can see the lighthouse there on the left side. You walk out sort of a peninsula on the end of the island. Gorgeous place with some natural rock swimming pools, so to speak. Check it out. As we pan to the right here, from the protection of the bay toward the open Atlantic Ocean on the right, you can see the waves really come in and crash. But that pool right there on the right-hand side, you can see Bobby and Chris and Robert hanging out. That was protected, even with, watch here, pretty big swell coming in, crashing through the rocks. That pool always stayed really safe and really calm. And we hung out there for quite some time. It really was a neat little spot. I would absolutely go back there again. So not only did we get good sunsets every day, here we have the sunrise over Culebrita Island, morning of day 3. We were headed out early. We had about a 25 or 30 mile sail out of Culebrita around essentially to the south, and then around under Vieques Island. We were headed out, a destination, little town and beach called Esperanza on Vieques Island. All right, a little tour of the cabin of this year's boat, heading down the stairs there into the main salon. Get a view of that, our main living area. Got our chart table here, all the electronics, nice galley kitchen. Across from that we got the dining area, which we folded down the table to make a bed. That's my spot this year. And further back we got one of our bathrooms. We got 2 on board. Heads with shower. Back side of the boat we got 2 facing aft. We got 2 identical berths here. Chris is on this one. We got Rob in this one. And going forward again, past the galley to the V berth. This year is a big single V-berth, the double bed. Bobby and Buddy are sharing. And there's a second bathroom with a shower in it here, which I have bungeed off because this stupid door just slams away all day long when you're sailing. But it's the same deal. The head, a little shower stall. Not bad, very similar boat from last year. We had a gorgeous 5 or 6 hour sail, real nice wind. You can see Buddy there in the back of the boat doing his thing. We're always trolling a hand line for fish. And caught fish pretty much every day. Not a lot, but pretty much every day. You can see Mr. Maynard there taking a little nap, doing his thing. And there's Rob. Used to be 4th mate, got an upgrade this year to 3rd mate on watch. On this leg of the trip, we did see a humpback whale. It was pretty brief. We don't have any pictures or video, but it was pretty cool. We did see some dolphins, though. No sailing video would be complete without the obligatory dolphin video, so here it is. I think the only time we saw dolphins the whole week, which is rare. Usually out sailing, see a lot more dolphins. But these guys hung out with us for not long, 5 or 10 minutes. It was pretty cool. After we sailed about 15 miles south, we passed Vieques Island, and we kept sailing south out into the Caribbean. I want to say maybe 6 or 8 miles out into the Caribbean until we were in about 8,000 feet of water. Beautiful, dark blue water. And we turned and headed to the west. We had the wind right behind us. We were running dead downwind, probably only sailing at maybe 4 knots. It was hot. We decided to keep sailing but do some swimming out in 8,000 foot of water. Buddy went first here. You can see some kind of crazy rope chair contraption he was into. And then I gave it a shot.
I might see a big fish and you're going to see me hop out of that water so fast.
We won't have to flush the car.
We won't have to.
After another hour or two, we pulled into a nice little semi-protected bay at Esperanza on the island of Vieques. Picked up a mooring ball, flying the club colors here, you can see. Most of us are members of the Texas 200 Sailing Club, so we had our Club Burgee flying all week. Very nice little anchorage here at Esperanza. Check it out. Esperanza on Vieques Island. Pulled in for the night. There was a small island a couple hundred yards from the boat, real small, kind of with a outcropping of big granite boulders, almost like you'd see in New Hampshire or something. We decided to swim over there and do some snorkeling in that area for a little while. A lot of sea urchins in this area. Some pretty good snorkeling though. And of course, closer to the boat was mostly sort of sand and grass. And Buddy came back with some conch for dinner. Most of those went back in the water, but there was one unfortunate conch who paid the ultimate price. Buddy cracked him open, put him on the chopping block, carved him up, and wound up adding a little bit of seasoning in there for a sauteed conch dinner. After that, a couple of beers and another sunset. Tough gig. After it got dark, we took the dinghy in and hooked up with a tour operator that took us on a kayak tour at night of a bay a few miles away known as Bioluminescence Bay. And it was really cool. Pitch black night, no moon, pitch black water. But as soon as you touched it with your hand or with the paddle, or if a fish swam by under you, it would light up real bright like that. And supposedly one of the best spots in the world for bioluminescence, and it was definitely worth it. Another beautiful sunrise. Made some coffee, discussed our plan for the day. We were going to be heading about 6 miles to the east along the island of Vieques into a spot called Playa La Chiva, which reportedly had some good snorkeling. So after a little while on the hook in the morning, we slipped the lines, made our way up to Playa La Chiva for the day. We dropped anchor, wasted no time getting in the water, and found ourselves some pretty good snorkeling. And then came the big one, literally. So we're snorkeling out in about 15 or 20 feet of water. I'm just kind of videoing this nurse shark, and all of a sudden, right in front of me, swimming under me, is this massive manatee, which I didn't realize at first. I didn't realize there were manatees in these waters. I thought it was a whale for a second or two. Then I realized it was a manatee, and tried to get a little video as it swam off. Back on the boat, I'm going to give you all a 360 view of the anchorage at Playa La Chiva. It's not all rainbows and unicorns when you're sailing around the Caribbean for a week. That night on the hook, we were checking the forecast, and this big system was moving in and was going to be sitting on top of us by the time we woke up in the morning and hanging around for a day or two. And sure enough, this is what we woke up to the next morning. This system was supposed to sit here all day and into the night. We made a plan, decided to leave Playa La Chiva since there was no town, no stores, no restaurants, nothing at all. We figured we'd at least head back, motor back. It'd be about an hour or so to get back to Esperanza, where at least we could get into town and find a restaurant, hang out, get a meal, get out of the rain for a bit. And so that's what we did. But first, we fired up some pancakes and had a nice breakfast, some coffee on the hook in the rain at Playa La Chiva. And then we headed back to Esperanza. Our timing was perfect getting back to Esperanza. We got in, got back on the mooring ball, took the dinghy into the beach and got into this little restaurant just before this next rain system hit. And we found the perfect place. Little beach bar right on the water, nice roof keeping us dry. We had a few drinks and some lunch and hung out for a few hours. Later that night, we got a break from the rain, some time in the cockpit.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, gonna meet the crew. On the left side, we have Mr. Buddy Simons, hailing from some small town in Louisiana. Hell yeah. Mr. Rob Marshers, Central Pennsylvania.
Hailing from here, but you don't know anything.
Supposedly from Puerto Rico, but we're showing him more of Puerto Rico in 5 days than he learned in 60 years. That's for...
We'll edit this later.
Yeah, we'll edit this out later, maybe.
Puerto Rico light.
Boston, Massachusetts, or thereabouts, Mr. Christopher Q. Maynard. Grange, Texas. Safety officer. Very important role in this boat. Useless. And we've got yours truly, Mr. Matt Sheemer from Pennsauken, New Jersey. Hell yeah.
That storm system brought some confused swell into our semi-protected anchorage, so it was a rolly night in Esperanza. Next morning we got up early, put on a nice pot of coffee, and were treated to another beautiful sunrise and some good news on the weather front. No more rain expected, just a bit of clouds. So we eventually slipped the mooring line and got underway. We were headed back to Culebra Island, another 5 or 6 hour sail, and we were going back to the southwest corner of the island, a spot we had not been to yet, but had been scoping out here in advance of our trip. Supposedly some good snorkeling, and this little spot's called Playa Punta Soldado. So we made our way over, trolling along the way, of course. Another barracuda from Mr. Buddy. Eventually pulled in here to that spot where that blue dot is where we anchored. And it was a pretty good spot. You can see it here. Still a bit of a cloudy day, so the snorkeling was not great. And we were going to spend the night, but the swells were still coming out of the south-southeast. And this point of land, which you'll see here in a second, comes to an end and really does not protect from the south-southeast. So we moved on and decided to head up here, a little spot called Almodovar Bay, which, as you can see, is protected pretty much on all sides by reefs. So this new anchorage was only about a mile away, pretty much right into the wind, and so we didn't bother putting the sails up. We just fired up the old diesel and motored over, and the swell was up pretty good outside, and yeah, we had some fun making our way over.
All right, Jersey boy, ride 'em cowboy.
Urban cowboy. There goes the good one. Oh boy. Heads up, boys! Oh.
Yeah.
A shower.
It's a rental.
I'm not a rental.
After a little bit of a bumpy ride, we eventually pulled into Almodovar Bay, dropped the hook. It was a great spot with protection all around. Sailing around and island hopping in the Caribbean can really take its toll on you. So when we get to anchor, sometimes we just like to chill. Bobby just crashed out on a cooler here, I think. Didn't even make it to his bed. A little later that afternoon, it was time for some showers. It's always interesting on these trips because fresh water is very scarce. We have 140 gallons on this boat for washing dishes, flushing toilets, and all of our showers. We do buy separate drinking water, but 140 gallons, 5 guys, 8 days, not a lot. 17 gallons a day total for all of our showers, toilets, and washing dishes. So our showers basically are all in salt water. You know, you've got shampoo and soap that will lather in salt water. Do what you need to do on the back deck here, and then dive in to rinse all the soap and suds away. And then there's a little handheld freshwater hose on that back deck. And with probably about a gallon, you can get the salt off at the very end, and it works perfectly. So even though you have never wanted to watch me shower, you just got to do so. You're welcome. So this boat had a cool light that you could turn on at night under the boat, shooting down into the water. It would change colors from blues to greens, and it attracted a lot of fish. And every anchorage, every night was different. Sometimes it'd be thousands of little, real small fish. And this particular anchorage was these 3-foot tarpon, which were with us the entire evening. Next morning, we got up real early, coffee at the sunrise, and then we headed over just a couple miles away to the west side of Culebrita Island. We had seen the reefs there when we were up at that lighthouse, and they looked really nice. We wanted to go check it out and see if the snorkeling was any good. All right, we are just finished doing a little snorkeling at Culebrita Island. We're going to go down below where Mr. Maynard has been diligently firing up some breakfast. Look at him go. He really is good in the kitchen. Got some eggs and omelets and God knows what else. Probably a grease fire in the making there.
Well, maybe.
Buddy and Bobby chowing down after a hard morning snorkel. In Buddy's case, in Bobby's case,
He had a rough one.
safety officer duty.
OSHA's coming down for that false alarm.
Safety officer wears a life jacket, a belt, and suspenders in the cabin.
Safety first, right, Bobby?
He's just aiming for safety.
A little while later, pulled up the anchor and headed out for another good day of sailing.
And I'm hoping that you can forgive and forgive me. I thought they'd never see a change in me, and I can't believe. Looking forward to a life ahead, whatever it is. And I'm hoping that you can forgive.
We had a great afternoon of sailing. We went out about maybe 10 or 12 miles out into the Atlantic and just made our way slowly to the east, heading to our final destination for the day, the anchorage at Palominos Island. We're probably out for 3 or 4 hours. Real nice sail. eventually made our way into what would be our last anchorage of the trip, Palominos Island. Picked up a mooring ball at the far end of the island and hopped in the water, did some more snorkeling and swimming. And naturally, within minutes, Buddy had sniffed out some more dinner.
Got him! All right, we're still recording here, buddy. Let's check him out.
I think we'll have some lobster and shrimp tonight.
Is that gonna be a snack?
That's gonna be a little Scooby snack.
All right. Nicely done, brother.
Very cool.
And a couple hours later, Buddy did fire up some shrimp and that fresh lobster and had some dinner at our last anchorage. One last night of sitting around the boat in our self-made blue haze. Sunrise over Palominos Island, our last day. We had about 6 or 7 miles, so about an hour, a little over an hour of sailing to do to get from this last island, Palominos, back to the marina where we had to turn the boat in. So we just kind of settled in for our last sail on the way in to finish up the trip. And then on our final approach, we dropped the sails, cranked up the diesel, turned up the tunes.
That's why I smoke two joints in the morning. I smoke two joints at night. I smoke two joints in the afternoon. It makes me feel alright. I smoke two joints in time of peace and two in time of war.
Just like that, it was over. We were back inside the marina on the final stretch, headed to the fuel dock to turn the boat in. End of another good sailing trip. Now we can start talking about where we're going to go next time. Thanks for watching, y'all.